Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're doing Doflamingo. This is the deck that my girlfriend actually really attracted to. She was in love with this deck immediately, and I haven't had a chance to play it, but she had to skip the past week of locals. So I managed to play it, and I won both locals with both of them. One of them was like a 3-rounder where we had to roll for top for like whoever won the whole thing, just because like I had to go on my New York trip, so I had to leave early. It would have been 4 rounds if I chose to stay, but I didn't get to stay. But in the other one, it was 4 rounds, and we did pretty well. So shout outs to what is this? Why is Odin here? That is for a different deck in the future. Shout outs to Doflamingo for being an insanely cool blue deck. One of my favorite decks to play in this format for sure. It's really fun. I'm gonna do a quick deck profile over it. My list is a little bit weirder than a lot of people's list, just because I really prioritize Doflamingo's consistency with keeping the board full and threatening. So that's what I'm going for more than anything else in this deck list. I guess real quick we can talk about matchups. Before I go into the deck profile, I will talk about all the matchups I've had. Seems that especially in that one tournament, I had to play against green, which felt a lot easier than I thought it would be. Maybe it was just like a rough day for the green player, but I played a green a handful of times and it seems to be just fine. Sure, they can kill my guys, but for the most part, I bounce their stuff and I just chip away at them until I win. This deck plays a million blockers, so it's really easy to stop them from having lethal most of the time. And then Law, pretty much the same thing. In fact, same thing with like Law and Rush decks. The hardest matchup this deck has is probably purple, because I'm not playing some of the bigger guys that are harder to delete in this deck list. So it's really easy for purple to actually clear my board. But if they don't find their king extremely early, the board clear king extremely early, it feels like a pretty free matchup, honestly, because they can clear my board. But even if they do find the board clear, because Dofi's ability to just swing and then summon the guy from the top of your deck, I just fill my board once again. It's really cool. So let me go ahead and show you guys what Doflamingo does before we get into this. Dawn 2 when attacking. So you're attacking for 7, which as we know, magic number is 7. You're attacking for 7, and then for 1 cost, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a Shishibukai, so Warlord of the Sea, the 7 Warlords of the Sea character with a cost of 4 or less, you can play it. You can play it rested. So immediately you get a body on board that they have to probably attack into because it's most likely going to be threatening. Or you get a cool on-play effect that can disrupt your opponent or bolster your defense as well, which is the goal of this deck. So we're going to go ahead and go over the deck list in a very strange order, but it makes sense the more I like thinking about it. We have, first of all, 4 Perona, 2 Desert Spada, and 3 Don Quixote Doflamingo. The whole point of all of this is so that we can look at the top few cards of our deck and then reorganize them. That way we have full control of not only the ability to play cards off Doflamingo, but what we're going to draw as well. As long as we plan out properly, including things like Boa Hancock and any extra draws we might get with Love Beam and whatnot. We are able to control how we're going to play the game, and as long as you understand how your opponent is going to play the game, how your opponent's deck works, you can actually organize whether you want to draw what cards, play what cards, and also maybe like these cards in general are not good enough, so you just put them on the bottom instead. This is a blocker. 3 cost, 1k counter, so overall pretty good. This one is a 1 cost, 2k counter that looks only at the top 3, while this one looks at the top 5, and the Perona is also a 1 cost, 1k counter that looks at the top 5. So obviously I like Perona more, and I know a lot of people are talking about not playing this full count of 4 Dofi, 4 Perona, but for me, because the game is so grindy when you play this deck a lot of the time, I like having as many options as possible in the deck list. I know that Gecko Moria can get back these guys, but Gecko Moria is almost always going to be getting back a Law, so I'd rather not do that. And then this is of course only in the list so that I have added consistency with opening up one of these searchers, which is why we're playing 2 of these. Also decent counter of draw 2, trash 1. So that's the engine, quote unquote, of the deck list. Let's go over the rest of the list as far as the 7 Warlords go. This is a guy you never, ever want to play with Doflamingo's ability, but he's a 7 warlord, so he comes in here honorarily, right? But he's always a guy that you want to grab back with Gecko Moria using his on play ability, because this thing has on play add 1 7 warlords of the sea or thriller bark pirates character with a cost of 4 or less from your trash to your hand. So you can get back Perona if you don't have. Okay, for me, it's usually get back Law. Chump blockers are good. They're forced to delete it in order to play the game. You can get back Perona if you really need to start searching the top 5. Or you can even give back stuff like Doflamingo if you want a blocker that also searches. So it's like the best of both worlds, but it costs a little bit more. Or you can give back something like Boa Hancock, which has the ability to draw you a bunch of cards. Like, there's a lot of options. I just, for the most part, grab this, but obviously circumstances are circumstances, and sometimes you need to grab different cards. So that's the beginning of the guys. Sorry for the glare, but we're just gonna have to deal with it real quick. I have bumped up. I played this at 2, then 3, but now I'm at 4 copies of Martial D Teach. I just like having as many options as I can in the deck list that can trigger my Doflamingo, because sometimes you're going to have to go in blind if you brick, if you can't find anything, if you really need a game plan going. You're willing, because you're usually going to swing with 7 anyways with Doflamingo, because 7 is a good number. It forces them to get rid of too many cards in the hand or take damage. So what's one extra cost to not only look at the top card of your deck but potentially play it? And a lot of people say that it's not good to do this just for the information. I do agree that if you do this blind and you have to share information, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but sometimes it's just good enough to be able to look at the top card of your deck, know what you're going to do next turn based on that information, and go on from there. So I still like having the option to use this even blind, but generally never wants to happen. I say probably 1 in 20 games that happens for me. Mihawk, 2k counter, decent body at 5k, and also Dawn 1 when attacking, draw 2, trash you. Pretty good if you're bricking. And then we have a few more options here. Oop. Actually, you know what? Yeah. Okay. There's the beginnings of it. We'll keep going. I just don't want to have this with my camera being the way it is. All right. We have 4 Boa Hancock, one of the best cards in the game, in the deck, I should say. Kind of. It's really interesting because it's a 1k counter, 4 cost, right? 5k body. So generally good stats. It's a blocker. Great. Dawn 1 when attacking or on block, draw 1 card. If I have 5 or less cards in hand, that's like a joke of a requirement. That almost is always the case. If it's not, then you're either really ahead and it's just kind of awkward, or not, right? The problem with it is you have to hard play it and then Dawn 1, which means that you are now using 5 of your Dawn just to put this on board to draw you a card, which is very expensive. But if you play it off Doflamingo and then you protect it, excuse me, with your other blockers or your counters in hand, then you're super chill. That's generally what you want to do, because hard playing it is kind of pricey, but obviously you can hard play it if you need to, just because it gets you extra draws. It's really, really good for recovering you from a late game or like a bogged down hand. I'm actually putting in 1 Gecko Moria. I'm teching it in for now. It's actually really cool. It's really nice in the mirror, I found, and it's not really that I'm expecting this to put in work, because it's a 1-up, obviously. What this more is like Doflamingo plays this rested. It's an immediate threat because it has double attack. This has your turn. Blah, 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 sorry about that. Double attack if you have 5 more cards in hand. Once again, it is easy to get that 5 number. So more easy. It's pretty. You can consistently do it if you try. Obviously, in this game, you can just do it because they can hit your life. You take the damage. You put a card in your hand. You draw a card. This will draw you cards. Love Beam draws you cards if you have 3 or less. So it's easy enough to get you to that position. But this threat being on board freaks out your opponent. Rightfully so. Double attack that you can hit for like 7k, 9k if you put 4, things like that, is really, really scary, and your opponent has to deal with it. So I'm trying it out at the moment, and I kind of want to put more in, but for the time being, just a 1-up, just as a tech for now, is pretty cool. Then the last, I think it's the last one, yeah. The last one is Kuma. Kuma is just a blocker, but unlike a lot of other people who are playing the 6-cost Pacifista, which I agree with, I think the card's fine. I recently cut it out because I wanted to try just playing 2 blockers, keep it real simple. I tried this list in a bunch of different iterations, right? I played one with Sentomaro in the list, and then more of these Kumas and Pacifistas, or not more Kumas, but more Pacifistas. I played one with no Sentomaro and no Pacifista whatsoever, because I found that sometimes the Pacifista bogs your hand down. You don't really want to play them. Sure, they're 1k counters, but like it also like ruined the consistency of Doflamingo finding stuff on the top 5. It just became generally a mess, and there were some other tech cards I really wanted to play for the format. So I quickly I also played a list that had even no Kumas and like 4 Morias, right? Which I really liked as well. Excuse me. But I found a happy balance between them, and this is the balance I'm going with right now. Obviously, you can increase the Pacifista numbers. Obviously, you can play the vanilla Pacifista that's 6k, because obviously that's 1 Dawn, and then you're 7k, and then you're swinging for big numbers. It's really hard to revenge kill as well. So there's a lot of good in the other Pacifista, but because I really valued the consistency that Doflamingo offers, I just wanted to try playing it with a little bit of extra this, because you can obviously use the cards to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put this Pacifista in your hand, use this ability to draw this, or to play this, I mean, obviously draw this, let it die, they attack into it, and then you have a blocker. Sometimes it's also really good to just have block into block. It's really strong against a lot of decks that are just not prepared to be blocked twice, you know. But that's it for all of the Warlords, as well as the surprise Pacifista, which doesn't count as Warlord. Just there to show off the combos with Kuma. But yeah, I really like it for the double block, just to like close out games and stop yourself from losing. It's really cool. Now, as far as the other cards I play in this deck list, I am playing 4 Alvida. I have never actually tested this at a 3 of. I just liked having more 2k counters, but I've seen a lot of people in their list play only 3 Alvida. So if you wanted to try that and maybe play more Pacifistas or more Morias or something like that, that is a very easy cut, I'd say. Other people there's other cards I don't play that you could also try playing as well. I am playing 2 Jinbei, and I think Jinbei is just incredibly busted. Just on play, bot deck something. That's huge. Sometimes you can, for whatever reason, this Jinbei is not a Shishibu guy, even though Jinbei was a Shishibu guy. I mean, I get it maybe because it's kind of like the post-time skip design, but still, it's kind of weird. He should have been one, not the vanilla one that's in the star deck, but this one as well. But that aside, on play, place a character with 3 costs or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. This is amazing versus red. It's spectacular versus red. Bot deck their Zoros, bot deck their Luffys, bot deck their Choppers, bot deck their Namis. It's really good versus red decks. And obviously, if you put 3 Dawn on it, it can also do a chump swing as well if you needed to. It's really good against stuff like Bonnies, and in green you have their Bonnies and their, what's his name, Momonosuke's, that you can just swing into, or on play bot deck and then swing into another one. You know, it's pretty cool. I really like Jinbei. If I could play it at a higher counter, I would. My problem is it just doesn't have a counter, which is why I'm only playing it as a 2 of. But once again, the beauty of this deck is its consistency, because you're always looking at the top 5 cards of your deck. You know what you're gonna draw, you know when you're gonna draw it, and you know if you even want to draw it, because you can just bot deck it as well. And then probably one of the best cards in this deck, and it kind of actually has solidified my philosophy for deck building when it comes to this game, is Mihawk. Mihawk's 9 cost, 9k on play, put a character with 7 costs or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. This is my last character in this deck list, which means you see that I don't play cards like Doflamingo, and I don't play cards like Crocodile, the more expensive versions. Doflamingo, I could see myself putting in because I just like having another card on ramp that I can play that's a big body. My problem with it is that it's 7 costs, which means in the mirror match it's kind of dead, and I'm trying to avoid playing dead cards in some matchups, obviously, but that's just like, this game just has that, right? This game just has matchups where some of your cards are just horrible. For instance, like red against purple, it's really bad because they can just kill all your small stuff with like King and whatnot. But Mihawk's ability to be a 9k body, that's just impossible to remove without attacking into it, unless they do like a bunch of combos with like jet pistols and like Otamas and whatnot, is really good. It's at a 3 of count, so I see it enough thanks to Doflamingo, and it gives me like this kind of like a checkmate card I can play at the end of the game, which is really nice without bogging down my hand full of unplayable cards early game, such as, you know, Doflamingo and whatnot. And then last card is Love Mellow, Love Beam, whatever it's called. 2 costs, 4k counter, draw 1 if you have 3 or less cards in your hand after playing it. So good. One of the best counters in the game. It's literally counter, draw 1. Like, how that's insanely powerful. That's the deck list, guys. If you guys have not seen already, I have a One Piece dedicated channel where I'm actually going to be putting gameplay videos up there. I'm just trying to experiment because I play so many card games, and I would hate to put every single card game in one channel just because I know that can sometimes deter viewers. But I've decided to put my gameplay up on that channel. If you haven't seen already, there is a tabletop matchup with this, with my girlfriend playing this deck, and I was playing Law. That's already up on there. I might be doing that again with a different matchup later as well, where maybe I'm playing this deck list or something along the lines of that. We will see. I have other friends that also play One Piece that I can obviously bring over for the tabletop setup. So expect more videos on that channel. That is linked down below. I believe it's OP::Aura or OP Aura, whatever you want to call it, One Piece Aura. I have a Gate Ruler channel and I have the main channel. So that's what I have at the moment. Thank you guys for liking. Please like the video if you haven't already. I know the Law video almost has 100 likes, which is phenomenal. So hopefully this video can reach 100 likes as well. I made a poll that is asking what deck list you guys want to see me do next. You guys voted Zoro. I have a surprise for that video, so be excited for that. Generally, I want to try to win at least one local before I post the deck video, so I'm gonna have to compete first before I show you guys that. But yes, that is the goal. And yeah, subscribe, share all that good jazz, and I'll see you guys next time.